They come softly, cloaked in the dark. Not to harm you but to speak. To whisper truths your waking self has learned to silence. You call them nightmares, but maybe they're messages. The mind's way of holding up a mirror when you've turned away too long. Because the mind doesn't just sleep. It feels. It remembers. It heals in metaphors. And sometimes it has to speak the only language it knows. Imagery, emotion, symbols, to reach you where logic can't. So tonight, let's walk through the dreamscape together. Gently, patiently, and listen to what your nightmares might be trying to say. 1. The falling dream. You've lost control. You're falling again. The ground stretches endlessly beneath you. Your stomach drops, your breath catches, and there's no one there to hold on to. And then, just before you hit, you wake. It's one of the most common nightmares, and psychologists believe it's deeply connected to control, or the loss of it. When we dream of falling, it often mirrors a moment in life where something once solid now feels uncertain. A relationship, a job, an identity, a version of yourself you thought you understood. But falling dreams aren't punishments. They're emotional alarms. They remind you that beneath the anxiety, your body already knows the truth. You're trying too hard to hold everything together. In waking life, we white-knuckle our control. We plan every detail, rehearse every outcome, and pretend we're fine. But the unconscious doesn't buy the act. It knows when you're tired. It knows when your grip is slipping. And in that weightless freefall, it whispers, "You can't control everything, and maybe you don't have to." So next time you wake breathless, don't fight it. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, where in my life am I afraid to let go? Sometimes, surrender isn't failure. It's how you learn to trust the air beneath you. 2. The chase dream. You're running from something inside. You can hear it, the footsteps behind you. No matter how fast you run, they follow. A shadow, a stranger, a blur. Always almost catching up. And then you wake, heart pounding, sheets tangled, drenched in fear. Chase dreams are the psyche's favorite metaphor for avoidance. The thing chasing you? It's often not a monster at all, but a feeling, a truth, a conversation you keep dodging, a memory you're not ready to face. Carl Jung called these our shadow selves, the parts of us we bury because we think they're too messy, too angry, too painful to bring to light. But the more we suppress them, the louder they knock in the night. Nightmares don't chase you to hurt you. They chase you to be seen. To remind you that healing begins the moment you stop running. So if you often dream of being pursued, ask, what am I avoiding in my waking life? Is it grief? Is it guilt? Is it the fear of not being enough? Because sometimes the only way out of the nightmare isn't to escape it, but to turn around, meet the thing chasing you, and whisper, "I see you. I'm ready to understand." 3. The teeth falling out dream. You're struggling to speak your truth. You're standing in front of a mirror. You smile, and suddenly, your teeth crumble. One by one they fall into your hands. You try to speak, but the words come out broken. This dream is unsettling, almost grotesque, but its meaning runs deeper than fear. Psychologists link it to communication, the loss of power, confidence, or self-expression. Teeth, after all, are how we bite, chew, and speak. They symbolize strength and voice. When they fall out, your dream may be asking, where have you lost your voice? Maybe you've been silencing yourself in a relationship to keep the peace. Maybe you've been holding back how you really feel, afraid it'll push people away. Or maybe your inner critic has grown so loud, it's drowned out your truth. In waking life, we often shrink ourselves to belonging. But your mind remembers who you are, even when you forget. And through the image of falling teeth, it's saying, you've been quiet for too long. It's time to speak, even if your voice trembles. Because healing doesn't always sound pretty, but it's always honest. 4. The being late dream. You're feeling behind in life. The alarm didn't go off. The bus is gone. The train doors close. The room is empty, and you're not where you were supposed to be. Your heart races as you run, but no matter how hard you try, you can't catch up. Dreams about being late are the mind's way of translating pressure. They often appear during seasons of change, when you're comparing your path to others, when time feels scarce, when success seems to move faster than you can. Psychologically, lateness dreams speak to perceived inadequacy. They reflect the deep fear of missing your moment, of being left behind in a world that never slows down. But here's the truth most of us forget. There's no single timeline for healing, success, or self-discovery. You're not late. You're just in your own season. Every soul bloom at its own pace. And your subconscious, in its anxious rush, is trying to remind you, you're moving, even if it's not visible yet. So, when you wake from that dream feeling behind, take a breath. You are not missing your life. You are in it. 5. The death dream. You're shedding an old version of yourself. You stand in a field of mist. You see someone, or something, fading. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's someone you love. And you wake with a heaviness that feels like grief. But dream death rarely predicts real loss. It speaks instead of transformation. In Jungian psychology, death in dreams symbolizes rebirth, the ending of one chapter and the beginning of another. It appears when you're outgrowing an identity, a pattern, or a version of yourself that no longer fits. It's uncomfortable, yes, because even growth demands a kind of grieving. We mourn who we were before we understand who we're becoming. If you've been feeling stuck, if life has been nudging you toward change, this dream might be your psyche's way of saying, it's okay to release what no longer serves you. You're allowed to evolve. So the next time you dream of death, don't wake in fear. Wake with curiosity. Ask, what part of me is ready to be reborn? Because endings, in the language of dreams, are never the end. 6. The lost dream. You've drifted away from yourself. You're wandering through endless hallways, forests, cities, searching but never finding. Every turn feels familiar yet strange. You call for help, but no one answers. This is the dream of disconnection, the quiet ache of losing touch with your own center. It appears when you've been overextending yourself for others, when your days blur, when you can't remember the last time you felt grounded. Psychologically, lost dreams often emerge from self-neglect. When your outer life consumes your inner one, your subconscious sends you into mazes and forests, symbolic spaces of confusion, to remind you, you've wandered too far from home. But the good news is, the path back is never gone. It just begins with stillness. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what part of me have I abandoned to keep going? And listen, really listen, to what answers. Because every lost dream is a love letter from your inner world, whispering, come back to yourself. I've been waiting. The gentle truth behind nightmares. Nightmares are not punishments. They're not signs that you're broken or weak. They're emotional language. Unfiltered, symbolic, raw. When we suppress emotion, the mind reroutes it. When we silence pain, the body speaks. And when we ignore what hurts too long, the dream world paints it in symbols big enough to see. That's not cruelty. That's compassion, the psyche's way of saying, you are overdue for care. So instead of fearing your nightmares, what if you befriended them? What if, each time you woke in the dark, you placed a hand on your chest and said, I hear you. Tell me what I need to understand. You might find that the monster you run from is just your loneliness, that the fall is simply your fear of surrender, that death is your transformation waiting for permission. Because beneath every nightmare is a longing, to be known, to be held, to come home to yourself. And when you finally listen, you'll notice the nightmares soften. The chase slows. Fall becomes flight. The darkness begins to glow. That's the power of self-awareness. It doesn't erase your pain. It translates it. It lets you turn fear into understanding and understanding into healing. Psychology teaches us that every emotion is information. Every dream, a story coded in metaphor. And when you learn to read that language, the mind no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like an ally. So tonight, if sleep brings you another strange haunting world, don't run. Pause. Breathe. Remember, your subconscious is speaking in poetry. And like all good poetry, it's not meant to scare you, it's meant to move you. To guide you gently toward the parts of yourself still waiting to be seen. Because sometimes, healing doesn't look like peace. Sometimes it looks like a nightmare, teaching you how to wake up to your own truth.